Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. So Pictured Rocks is made up about 80% of forests, and since these forests make up such a large part of the park, there's many different types of trees. Some of the trees are American beech, hemlock, red and sugar maples, yellow birch, red pine, jack pine, and white pine. Since the early human development, since around like the late 1800s, many different types of non-native species have been able to move in, and some of them have kind of messed with the local ecosystem of the park. One of these species would be the beach scale, which is an insect that comes from Europe and came to North America, and again, like the late 1800s, when the English were bringing over some European beech trees for a horticultural exhibit. Beech bark disease in the beech scale. One of the problems that the beech scale can cause is beech bark disease, and this is a disease that affects mainly American beech trees, and it starts out when the beech scale infests the trees and they bore holes into the bark because they're trying to feed off of the tree's sap, and then it leaves these holes, and then the Nectaria canker fungus is able to make its way into the tree and further infect it, which leaves it more prone to other infections from other types of fungus and other parasites and stuff. And many different for the most part, the trees will die within about 10 years after being infected because it just makes them a lot weaker and more prone to like snapping and stuff. Beech bark disease can be easily seen on trees that are infected with it because there's the red, like kind of red little blotches and patches on the tree, and that's actually from the fungus. And the white stuff that kind of looks like waxy or woolly, that's from the beech scale. Let's see, the American beech tree and beech bark disease. So one of the main things that could easily harm pictured rocks would be the decline of beech bark or the beech tree population. Since most trees that get it, they normally die within 7 to 10 years or whatever it is. It seems like it would wipe out quite a bit, and actually it would likely wipe out about 80 to 90% of the mature beech trees in the park. And this would be a problem because the mature beech trees are the ones that provide food and nesting and stuff for other animals. Beech trees and the wildlife. Beech trees, they play an important role in the local ecosystem of the park since mature trees produce beech nuts, which are a pretty major source of food for animals such as like birds and squirrels, bear and deer and stuff. And since animals such as birds and squirrels and marten and fish nest in the trees, it would kind of mess with how the animals would be in the area. It might kind of push them out and stuff. And bears, since they eat a lot of it, if they don't eat enough, then they won't be able to hibernate, which will send them out to kind of just mess with other stuff within the park, which wouldn't be good. And then when the older trees die, the the seedlings can sprout off the older roots from the trees, and then since there'll be so many, it'll just overgrow and then kind of take up area for other species to be able to thrive. And then since they're smaller, they don't really produce anything for other animals, so it would just kind of be a waste of space and kind of mess stuff up. And then the trees with the young seedlings, they would also be prone to the beech bark disease as well, since the beech trees that died would likely die from beech bark disease, so then they would just carry the same genetics as the parent plants that died. Scientific studies. So in 2001, when researchers discovered beech bark disease in pictured rocks, the scientists and researchers had to figure out how to stop the problem before it became too out of hand and completely wiped out the beech population of the park. So they've been trying to find different ways to kind of help prevent the infection from spreading too much. And one of the things they do is they find resistant trees, and they can find these just by going into areas that are full of other infected, in groups of infected trees, and then there'll be one that's perfectly fine. and then they'll take cuttings off of them and propagate them in greenhouses, and then they'll keep them in there until they're good enough to go, and then they'll just do some other testing and stuff. So they hope to have enough of them and then just replant the ones that have died with the resistant ones, so then the beach scales won't be able to infect those ones as well. Grafting resistant trees. So the park, they've been doing studies relating to the scale resistant trees, and they've been testing them to determine how effective the whole process would be. And they do one test where they take the seedlings that they take cuttings off the resistant trees from, and they place little foam like pads and they tie them to the trees and keep them on there for like a year, and then they come back and check on it to see if they had any like clusters of eggs, like the beach scale eggs, or if the beach scale were able to mature into adults. And if they don't, if there isn't any of them on there, then those are the resistant ones. So those are the ones they can replace in the park. And they found out that in order to get a high percentage of resistant seedlings, they have to use parts from both resistant parent plants in order to make it efficient to get like 100% a resistant plant. And these are my sources. Let's see.